Hi everybody, I'm Don Smith and welcome to another edition of Turnpike Music Garage, a show that gets under the hood of everything music. With the kids going back to school, you're going to be looking for band instruments this year. So we thought we'd spend a couple of episodes taking a look at some of the band instruments you're going to be encountering and ways to make sure that you don't get taken when you go looking for something used. You can find instruments used on the internet, you can find them used from friends, you can find them used from school sales, from local dealers. And so how do you know when you have a good instrument? Today we're going to look at flutes, and we're going to take a look at actually a quality flute here. This is a Selmer flute. It's one of the brands you'll encounter. How does a flute work first, and then what to look for when you're contemplating buying one. It's a three-piece instrument, basically a long tube with a bunch of holes on it and valves that cover the holes, and an extension piece, and then a mouthpiece. Now, interesting with the mouthpiece, we'll start here first. Inside this mouthpiece is a cork, and that cork is how it's tuned. If that cork is not seated properly or it's in the wrong spot, you won't get a good sound out of the instrument. And the way you adjust a cork is with this screw cap at the end. A flute makes it sound basically like a whistle. You're blowing into a mouthpiece like you're blowing into a bottle top. If you've ever done it as a kid, that whistle sound translates through the rest of the instrument, and that's how it gets its sound. What you want to look for first off is that these holes are perfectly round. There are no corks or other gaskets on this instrument like there are perhaps on a saxophone or a clarinet. So if this is not round, you're going to get a leak around this collar. This piece fits into the collar, and you want to make sure that that is perfectly round and not oblong or dented or nicked or whatever, so that when you put it together, it seats properly. And in this case, this instrument actually does seat quite well. Okay? Now, the body of the flute consists of many, many linkages and valves. What you want to look for, first off, is do all the linkages respond properly? Do they keys go down and come back up when you're asked to? And so as you go through, you just hit the keys and see what happens. Now, I just noticed when I was hitting this one that this one's taking some time to come back up. I don't know if you can notice that or not. It kind of just is lethargic coming back. That's an adjustment. There might be some grease in the joint there or some other foreign material in the joint, or you can just loosen the screw. But for right now, this is going to be a tough instrument to play because as the student is hitting that key, going to the next note, it's not going to open up fast enough. This one's moving pretty good here. These keys are moving pretty good. These linkages, you see when you hit this linkage here, it opens up this valve over here. Those are kind of lethargic. So from a keys point of view and a linkages point of view, this needs some adjustments. But you also want to make sure that the linkages are straight. Oftentimes what happens is the students will grab the instrument like this and they'll crush the linkages or bend the linkages because they're very delicate, you can see, while they're putting the instrument together. So far we've got some stickiness in the keys, some non-responsiveness in the keys, so this is going to need some adjustment. But it is a very good instrument. Selmer makes a very quality instrument, so it's worth the time, if you find an instrument like this for a reasonable price, to spend the extra few dollars to have it fixed. Then the lower piece essentially goes with it. Again, it's a collar situation here. And when you're putting these things together, you should be holding the body, not the linkages. Okay? You check these keys. This got a little roller. This is your pinky does these. And since your pinky is playing this one, they have to be really responsive, otherwise it gets hard to play. Now this one's sticking a little bit too. So, but all in all, so far, it's in pretty good shape, just needing some regulation, some adjustments for the linkages. The next thing you want to check for is the pads, because if the pads don't seat the holes properly, you get leaks. And if it leaks, it gets hard to get the notes clear. A good instrument that seals all the holes properly will be easier to play. If there's leakage down the body of the instrument, it gets harder and frustrating for the student to get the notes that they're looking for. They think it's them, and you don't want them to think it's them. So the instrument being A, quality, and B, in play condition is important. So the last thing we're going to look for is pads, and how are the pads? Well, ideally you want, I don't know if you can see it, is a pad like this, where there's a good bead all around the edge of the pad. We can see where the pad is sitting properly on what's called the chimney of the instrument. This pad is pretty good. This pad is pretty good. This little pad is pretty good, although this is actually the wrong pad here. That's a saxophone pad, but it'll work. Doesn't matter that it's not the right instrument. And as you're checking the pads, you just want to make sure that they're seating properly. As we get down here, we notice that there's some stuff missing off of it. I don't know if you can get in there and see that. That's bug eaten. Sometimes moths get into the cases and eat the pads. You can see how there's not a good seal around the edge of that pad, that the lip is missing, and it really looks like something has eaten that pad. So this pad has to be replaced. This one has to be replaced. And this one, wow, you can really see it on this one here. See it? How the whole edge of that pad is just gone. Yeah. So we got a few pads to replace on this instrument, a couple of linkages to adjust, but all in all, the instrument fits together properly. There's no real major damage or linkage considerations. This would be a good instrument to buy for, maybe the $200 price range. To rent one, it's going to cost you closer to $300. So if you can find an instrument like this and put, $40 or $50 or $60 into repairing it, you have a good instrument for your student to play through the school year. That does it for this edition of Turnpike Music Garage. Come and visit me at my store on 1485 Black Rock Turnpike. And you can get one like this, or you can bring yours in to get it fixed. Have a great day, and thanks for being here.